Hello, and welcome to the PRGX discussion, Why Recovery Audit Remains Essential in 2020. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions throughout the discussion, please submit using the question box. Also, please check your audio. If you're having trouble hearing us, let us know again via the question box. And be sure to follow us on social channels, Twitter and LinkedIn by searching PRGX Global. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Today, we're pleased to have Angie Holson and Ashley King join us in an open discussion as they share their insight on why recovery audit remains essential in 2020. Angie Holson is our Senior Director of Client Relationships for PRGX. She's a CPA by trade, having spent the first third of her career in public accounting and been a controller and VP of finance. Angie spent the last 20 years in consulting around procurement, accounting, and finance. She specializes in transformation, best practices, and improving efficiency with business process improvement. At PRGX, Angie works with our current customers to better understand their goals and their challenges in procure to pay. Welcome, Angie.
Hi, everyone.
We also have Ashley King joining us today. Ashley is Vice President of Business Development. She began her recovery audit career with PRGX in 1997 and has worked with hundreds of the world's largest companies throughout her tenure. Ashley's role in our organization is to consult with P2P leaders and develop recovery audit programs to help companies maximize value and close gaps in their P2P cycle. Welcome, Ashley, and thank you both for joining us today to share your insights. Let's get started. Angie, when this all started, we thought we may be making adjustments for maybe a month or two, but now we're in month 4 or 5. As someone who is talking to various companies' AP departments, what are your overall thoughts and reflections on the current environment?
Well, the good news is that working from home is working, and actually pretty well in most cases. In general, most people have embraced technology and mastered the tools that they need to be able to kind of meet and share and work together effectively. And I keep hearing from many companies that they're working towards returning to the office and actively preparing, but working from home has been so successful and the risk is still out there. So companies are just delaying to be cautious. It doesn't seem like there's any real rush to get back to the office from anyone. Some companies have even started to move forward on some larger projects like SAP implementations or some shared service process migrations or other initiatives. It definitely is seeming like COVID is no longer a reason to keep projects or initiatives on hold. One thing that is certain with all of the changes is that companies have noticed that there are some additional risks out there and some potential inefficiencies that they hadn't really had the opportunity to pre-plan for because of how this all came on. And now that this is the new normal, right, they're taking some time to kind of step back and address it. You're muted, Michelle.
Sorry
That's
about that. Okay. So that's interesting. Specifically, what you have heard with regards to people doing to increase in efficiency and limit risk in AP, what have you heard?
Well, for AP in general, they're stepping back and taking another look at process and control at a step-by-step level, from purchase order to goods receipt, invoice receipt, approval to payment. They're really looking at each step of the way with a little bit more granularity and a lens on risk, right? And once that risk has been kind of considered and taken into account, they kind of go back again and take a look at it from an efficiency perspective. What can we streamline, adjust, or eliminate?
Do you have any examples?
Sure. First, one area that's a little risky is how we start to share information, right? There's definitely been an increase in leveraging technology for sharing documents, right? New SharePoint drives have been developed. Maybe people are leveraging Microsoft OneDrive a little more heavily. People might have been resistant in the past, and now they're kind of jumping on board with some of that. But one thing that they're also doing is emailing files, which just carries with it its own risk and is a little bit less controlled. Another adjustment is that we're seeing some people have moved processes around. Companies are getting creative with teams, realigning some things and enabling others to support, such as maybe asking other locations to cover different things where the process risk is different. Part of the risk here is in maintaining the segregation of duties and maintaining efficiency. Like, for example, one company that we work with has a shared service center in Malaysia, and there the case rate is extremely low, and they're back in the office. So that group is picking up tasks for that company, those items that can be done more effectively and efficiently from an office setting, right? So those processes around. Another example that I have is a client thinking they've outsourced a shared service center, right? So current events have caused them to kind of reevaluate what things they want fully underneath their own control, right? So, but one of the most interesting things that I recently heard from some clients is that they've kickstarted a few items off their project list, and they're focusing on a few things that are a little bit more impactful in time. So they're no longer waiting around for COVID.
Do you have any examples of some of those projects that they are undertaking?
Yeah, it's actually, it's a whole variety of projects. Certainly automation efforts that can help. Items such as developing automated reporting for monitoring processes, both efficiency and effectiveness, a little bit more KPI reporting, or invoice hold reporting to review, or goods receipt GRIR report to kind of take a peek at. Some people have expanded their e-invoicing. We've heard from others that they've expanded P-card programs or taken efforts to reduce paper invoices or printed check runs. One company is taking on efforts to capture some dynamic discounts or implementing a program for factoring of invoices as an option for their suppliers, because cash flow is a concern for a lot of people right now. So we've seen an uptick also in new recovery audit customers who've decided that right now is the optimum time to kind of add recovery audit to their services, and they hadn't really leveraged that service in the past.
Right. It's interesting to the special projects and how AP process is being impacted. You mentioned recovery audit as one of those special projects. How are those changing?
Well, recovery audit is definitely gaining some increased focus. The amount of cash flow that they can provide can be significant. So they're definitely getting a lot more attention and support from upper management. It's really highlighted how it is an essential best practice that all companies should undertake. Clients are also leveraging the audit claim output as a way to monitor their process effectiveness and kind of ensure that they have adequate claims in place. For example, the claim activity that's coming in now is about the right time frame, right about when COVID started. So people are watching it closely and trying to see if there's any new trends in the claims that highlight a gap in the process or the controls, both by looking at the volume level of the claims and the types of claims. So they're finding it helpful. Ashley, I've been sharing kind of quite a bit from my point of view. What are you hearing that PRGX is helping with this time?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the conversations I've had recently center around how companies can achieve goals such as improving cash flow and increasing profitability without adding to the workload of their staff. So PRGX has been working closely with companies to identify quick wins in those areas. And fortunately, what we do and how we do it is well suited to meet their needs.
So what does that mean for the clients that you work with?
Yeah, for our current clients, in most cases, we've already started working, as Angie alluded to, we've already started working to help them identify additional areas of opportunity. For example, we have a client where our focus for the last year has been solely on contract compliance, and now their executive leadership team is looking for additional sources of revenue across the organization. And they recognize that cost recovery and preventative audit hold great value. So we're now working with them to accelerate the contract review by adding more contracts and also adding our statement and accounts payable audit. So we will be working with a few people new to the project, but because we're already in place and familiar with the company and their operations, we mostly just need some additional data fields in order to expand the scope of our review. And adding these additional areas to the scope will help us cast a wider net for recoveries, and our client should start seeing the additional cash in Q4. Of course, there's other ways we can help our clients. For example, audit expansion, different than what I just said. So we could also add a new region or business entity to the recovery audit mix. With audit achievement, we can review stale checks to decrease liability, which frees up cash. But one thing we want to make sure all our clients are doing is having a rolling audit. And what we mean by that is feeding us data on a regular basis to make sure we're auditing 90 days behind transactions. And again, a little bit that Angie alluded to already, this point is especially important now. So we know that initial work from home transition was abrupt. People were scrambling to get set up, dealing with childcare, trying to figure everything out. Inevitably, some things slipped through the cracks. And now that we're over 90 days from that initial work from home switch, we should definitely be in there reviewing the transactions from that time period, identifying gaps, correcting errors that occurred. This is really the time to ensure systemic errors are not occurring.
What if someone's new to recovery audit or they just haven't had one in a while? What would you suggest?
Well, really, all companies should seriously consider a recovery audit, preferably with a rolling window, as I just touched on. If resources are an issue, a good start is a vendor statement audit.
Can I stop you there for a minute? Can you explain what you mean by a statement audit for anyone that might not be familiar with that term?
Sure. When we talk about statement audit, what we're talking about is soliciting our clients' vendors for current statements. And this helps us identify open credits due to our client, and it enables us to bring that value back, increasing our client's cash flow. Credits we typically identify tie back to duplicate payments, wrong vendor payments, overpayments due to a number of reasons, but often due to pricing errors, tax, or shipping paid incorrectly or paid in error. Also can pertain to unprocessed or incorrectly processed returns. You can see how in this current environment, everything I just touched on has the potential to have spiked. So this is why it's essential to review these areas. Keep in mind, we work with the world's, the best run STP organizations in the world. We know that 99% or more of what gets processed is going to be accurate. We also know that many one-time errors will be caught and corrected. The role we play is to find and recover those lost dollars that aren't found, and also find and share corrections for gaps in the process.
Is there any other advice that you might have that you'd want to share?
Yeah, importantly, and a big takeaway from this discussion today is that recovery audit is not something to put off. So try to think of recovery audit as an essential service. It's one of the quickest and easiest ways to hit a lot of the goals that have likely been set since the start of the pandemic. And the truth is, if companies don't act now, they will miss out on a lot of recoveries.
What do you mean they'll miss out? Can't someone or from a company, or can't a company rather just capture them future 2021 or some other time down the line?
Actually, Michelle, the ability to recover money paid out in error drops off the further back we look. So when we work with a client for the first time, we typically perform a 3-year look back. When we analyze the recoveries across hundreds of clients, we consistently see that recoveries decrease the further you look back. So, for example, with credits that we discover when we solicit statements with vendors that I just spoke about, the sooner we can find them, the more likely our clients are to realize the value by either applying the credit to an open invoice or receiving a check back from their supplier. When the credits age, they tend to get written off or are applied to invalid invoices. They just don't hang out indefinitely. There's actually a steep drop off for recoveries every year we look back. So the most successful audits are audits in which we get new feeds of data on a regular basis, be it monthly, quarterly, or in some cases weekly or daily. And that enables us to catch errors quickly and have the best chance to recover the money. So again, specific to today's discussion about the current environment, there is a sense of urgency. We know after decades in this industry that change and uncertainty will increase processing errors. We saw this with Y2K, 9/11. We see it when companies merge, when they move locations, have layoffs, even something as simple as a Friday afternoon before a long weekend. I think we can all agree that the last 5 months have created a level of change and uncertainty at a sustained level that many of us, or most of us, have never experienced. So it's simply not realistic to think processing and payment errors have not occurred as a result. And it's important to address that as quickly as possible.
So knowing that there's money due to them, why would companies still push off a recovery audit?
The truth is, everyone is working at full capacity, if not over. So you may remember there was a major shift in the workforce during the 2008 financial crisis. For those of us in the workforce then, businesses went from trying to hold on to their workers to laying them off in an effort to survive. And okay, but most people started doing the jobs of 1.5, 2 people, and the expectation was we all had to roll up our sleeves, do what we could to get through the recession. But what ended up happening in many cases, and a lot of people I speak with, is that the positions didn't come back, and people have been trying to keep their head above water ever since. And now we've been hit with a new crisis, and there isn't much bandwidth to work with. So people are a little shy to take on new projects. But the important takeaway is that we get that, and we're well positioned to help because we shifted how we performed our audits a decade ago.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, of course, yeah. So PRGX works closely with our clients' AP and procurement departments, which in the time I just mentioned allowed us to observe what was happening. And we quickly realized we had to make a fundamental shift in the way we performed our audit work if we were going to be able to continue to partner with our clients and continue our work. So we started working offsite, we created audit centers, we started using remote access to validate and document our recoveries. And in a nutshell, anything we could do to lighten the load for our client, we shifted. We also invested heavily in technology, which enabled and continues to enable us to expedite the processing of our clients' data, expedites the solicitation of vendor statements, helps us efficiently perform our accounts payable review. So you might have seen on our website, you might see people that have landed there. We often speak to our ability to reach wider, dig deeper, and act faster. And that is a direct result of a focused effort over the past decade or so to shift all we can from our clients to our audit team. And, we get it. Nobody has time to take on projects unless they are confident those projects are going to yield meaningful results in the near term. But most companies, as I mentioned right now, are looking for quick wins. Any money that can be brought back to the bottom line is a priority. And a surefire way to increase profitability and help identify and correct processing gaps is to have a recovery audit. So as all of us, are making decisions daily in our work and personal lives about what is essential, what tasks, what appointments, chores are necessary, recovery audit needs to make that list. So almost every major company agrees having a recovery audit is a best practice. What we're trying to relay is that time is of the essence. Recovery audit is a priority. So don't delay it, don't cancel it. You got to integrate it and really, let PRGX help you figure it out. This is our area of expertise, and we can work with you to ensure you receive the maximum value.
Great. Angie, Ashley, this is all very good information, and thank you for sharing it. It looks like we have received a question. So Not sure who might be best to answer, but let me just put it out there. So you say that you believe there's a spike in payment errors due to the shift with work from home. Can you give a couple of examples?
Sure, I can take this one if you want. Yes, so based on our findings after the events I rattled off earlier, past events over maybe the last 20 years, and now that we, as Angie mentioned, are getting a first glimpse at our clients' data that from the end of Q1 and from Q2, I think what we're starting to find and what we're going to find will be overpayments or duplicate payments for purchases specific to COVID-19 and work from home. So even with our company, we quickly were getting our team up and running. And in the rush to order, you may find that there are errors due to duplicate vendors being set up, or there may have been multiple purchase orders issued for same products. We will likely see missed quantity discounts for purchases such as laptops, monitors, keyboards, printers, anything that was needed to get employees set up in a work from home environment. Most companies that we work with have discounts available to them from the suppliers that provide these commodities. But when scrambling to order needed products, individuals might not have taken the time to make sure they were taking advantage of pricing discounts. And actually another error that's not uncommon in the normal course of business, but which is probably amplified now, is returns not being credited back. So again, in the rush to get everyone set up, there are just going to be breakdowns in these types of processes. I think one last thing really is just the basic, processing payment errors due to, for lack of a better word, just chaos, right? Angie, can you think of anything else?
Well, there could be claims related to freight overcharges, or maybe sales tax errors. I mean, those are some of the other ones that might be out there that maybe you didn't mention.
Right. Yeah. No, good call. Yeah, Michelle, I think that pretty much, I hope that answers that question. And really, I think that, again, the main takeaway here is that now that we've settled into our new normal, we have to realize that we may have forgotten how chaotic everything was at first and how abrupt that was. I mean, some people literally went home one day and then were told not to come back to the office. So who knows if there were notes on someone's desk of things to do, or credit memos that were supposed to get entered that didn't. But most likely there's just simple human errors due to distraction. And the sooner we catch and correct those errors, the better.
Perfect. Well, thank you both again so much. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for attending the conversation today. As a note, this recording will be added to the PRGX website along with our other on-demand webinars. We also have some additional webinars that will be coming up over the next few months, which cover topics including recovery audit, root cause analysis, self-funding contract audit programs, and many other topics. So if you'd like to know more about recovery audit or to speak with a PRGX expert, please visit our website, prgx.com. Thanks again for joining us today, and have a great day. Bye.
Michelle, thanks, Angie. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.